Thursday, March 3rd. The cinemas are crowded for the occasion, even with the rain. It's another comic book movie, and everyone's there to see it. But I'm there too, watching. 10 years of lousy blockbuster filmmaking has turned me into a cynical animal. I don't know if I can keep this up. There's a lot of them. Most I try to forget. But this one is different. It's the one I've been waiting for, all this time. I asked myself if these films could be more, and this wasn't just an answer. It's a warning to those that follow. Fear is a tool.
Look, coming in hot on this one. No apologies, y'all better be ready because, hi, my name is Bailey, and this is why I love... Yeah, this is the tone we're taking here because I feel like we needed this, yeah? Yeah, I know I did. Because I love blockbusters, you know? I love my sweet little low-budget babies, but the biggest movies on Earth, huge canvas, all the resources in the world behind you, oof, what can you create with that? Well, not as much as I think we could be. No, not really. I found out this is somehow a hot take, and I understand that this is gonna come across a little jaded, but I think in the last 10 years or so, we've started seeing a pretty gnarly uptick in these $100 million plus movies, specifically in the superhero genre that are, I'm gonna regret saying this, that barely feel like movies to me. And they still are, they literally are, but there's this, how do I put this nicely? This feeling that there's either no one at the wheel or there's too many people and they're all trying to drive to different destinations. Or they don't care where they're going. I don't know. What I do know, what I feel, is this general lack of conviction in approaching these things with a singular, all-encompassing vision, and not just a vision, but a vision that looks and sounds and moves like it costs as much as it does to purchase an island in the Bahamas. Or like 5 islands. I don't know how much islands cost, I make film videos on YouTube. But this is what it all comes down to. Singular vision. I look at all of my favourite blockbusters of the last 10, 20, 30, even 40 years, way back before my time, and it's always that same thing. Vision, vision, vision. And I believe vision is something tangible, something that you can actually see and hear and feel. Vision is when, from the second a movie begins, you are in it. All semblance of self falls away, and for a couple of hours, you are that movie. Maybe you don't feel that like I do, but it's the feeling of confidence and creative certainty that permeates every element of craft and storytelling coming my way. And I tell you now, The Batman is one of those movies, and it's one of those movies to such a staggering degree within the current cinematic climate that it feels like a challenge, no, a warning to every other blockbuster that follows in its wake to lift their goddamn game. Because I knew from shot one, that this was the real fucking deal. And we'll get there, eventually, but first up, Matt Reeves. Oh, Matty Reeves, stand the fuck up. Round of applause for you. Here's another 100 million. Go do it again. Please. Or don't. I mean, he will, and oh yeah. But if this was all the Matt Reeves Batman I ever got, that's okay. Because the Batman really doesn't feel to me like just another take it or leave it chapter in an ongoing saga or a throwaway money laundering scheme made to sell something else. This is the complete package, and while it can and will be expanded on, all I'll ever need is right here already. There's no strings attached, no conditions of entry, no post-credits or promises. I need a part 2 to answer, and no, this does not count. The Batman has a future, sure, and we see glimpses of it, but this story is completed by minute 176, and whew, it took nothing from nowhere and owes naught to no one. And I'm not saying that's how things should be, that's how they used to be, but there's a place for all of it. It's just that I prefer this so much more. Oh yeah. The way I see it, Matt just gets it, man. With mind, body, and soul he gets it. And I can feel that across every single second. This is a vision with a vengeance, a take no prisoners, take no notes, water it down for no one type vision. Does that mean every single moment plays flawlessly for you? I can't say, but while I'm watching this thing, at no point did I ever feel like I was experiencing a single frame sold with anything less than total, unwavering conviction. So, let's talk about every single frame. Well, obviously we don't have the time for that, but you get the idea, right? I think when you kind of look at this movie from a bat's eye view, Matt's vision seems to stem entirely from a single question. Who is this Batman? Which, granted, is kind of obvious, but I think the more deliberate you are in answering that question across all facets of craft and storytelling, the more purposeful that vision will feel. So, who is this Batman?
I'm vengeance.
Ooh, no, don't worry, he's fine. Not that guy. This guy, Bruce Wayne. Oh yeah, he's doing great. He's what, 30 years old? He's wealthy, lives in a big gothic penthouse, loves his toys, his parents died in front of him when he was a kid, he sleeps literally never, he loves a bit of grunge, and oh yeah, he goes out every night to find criminals to beat to a pulp in a bat-themed suit of armor. Which is insane and bleak and kind of fucked up, but I think what Matt digs into here more than anyone that's come before is that all of this is really, really sad. If you were to throw every movie Batman together in a head-to-head championship, this one is coming out in first place for most depressed, guaranteed. And Matt really ran with that, building his entire film around that despondent state of mind. The film moves with the weight of Bruce's grief, with the simmer of his rage. It's that grim, grit your teeth kind of shit, like the air is stifling and the walls are closing in. You can feel that too, right? It literally feels heavy. You know what that feeling's called? Atmosphere, man. Atmosphere, and the Batman is drenched in it top to bottom.
Thursday, October 31st.
Oh, I don't know how many times I've heard those words now. 50? 100? More than that probably. I have watched this scene over and over, and every time I get the exact same kick. The kick of being immediately hooked into a whole new reality. This is Matt Reeves' vision of Gotham City on the night of Halloween, and I'm in it. Down there on street level.
It's a big city.
Yeah, absolutely, and Matt makes sure he shows as much of it as he can across the first 20 minutes of this movie. Streets, storefronts, subways, and skylines. It's about showcasing the unique architectural elements that make Gotham what it is. Grime, graffiti, danger, and decaying infrastructure, often under a tungsten flicker or a distant neon glow, but ensuring that those venues remain recognizable to us. It's not trying to be fantasy, even if it kinda walks that line. These are real places we know that we find ourselves in day to day, but given that gloomy Gotham finish, that's why it feels so tactile, so authentic. And look at the way water just runs off everything. Any set is gonna feel real if we can see real elements affect it, how they wear and weigh it down. Nothing sells atmosphere like a rain that never seems to cease, and so it never really does. That's hard-boiled noir for you, a jaded detective taking on the criminal element of a city collapsing into rot. Everything in Gotham is either falling into ruin or halfway into being. It's both ancient and unfinished, maybe even forgotten, that combination of waterlogged wallpaper peeling from the plaster and fresh foundations laid bare in the rain, a city attempting to start anew by building over its blight, an endeavour doomed to failure because it refuses to treat the sickness that brought it to this point in the first place. And that sickness, that disease, it's corruption. It's the 1% taking everything from the 99, and when that's not enough, trying to take that last percent from each other. That's how we got here. That's how we get a Batman, a Riddler, a Selina Kyle. Matt was really onto something with this whole Batman-Catwoman dynamic because he fundamentally understands that any human on Earth would completely shut down and lose all ability to think in the presence of Zoe Kravitz. It should have been me, goddammit! Look at both of them though, the smouldering levels are off the charts. Zoe, Rob, Secret Service Andy Serkis. Hell, it's even got Colin Farrell as...
Holy God, what are you showing me? His head. Come on! Open your eyes!
You'd be hard-pressed to find a resident of this Gotham who better captures its worst proclivities. Old Oswald is a sleazy, seedy, opportunistic bottom feeder who puts himself before all others in his violent climb to the top. Maybe he's just a product of the environment his bosses built. He wears the scars of the city after all, quite literally, but the Penguin ain't doing anything to heal them. No one in Gotham is, really, because it's every man for themselves. Every man except Jim Gordon, it seems, a true man of God.
Jesus Christ. Jesus. Holy shit, Jesus.
After 2 years on the job, Jim is the only person the Batman trusts, or trusts as far as investigative assistance goes, at least. The rest of the GCPD though? No way, no fucking way. If the cancer eating away at Gotham can be found on every corner, you'll find a cop there too, which, bad for Gotham, good for movie. Why? Extras, man. This whole production team went to town on constructing, well, the town. But all that work, all that handcrafted detail don't count for shit unless there's people there to experience it in person. This might be an insular story about the major players in Gotham, the city elite and the strangers in masks, but unlike every other plot-obsessed franchise machine of the last decade, Matt doesn't forget about the everyday person in between, because you can't paint a complete picture of Gotham without them. Plus, I think more superhero movies should have scenes where 100 cops run after the hero all like... The point of all this is that Gotham feels real. For those 2 hours and 56 minutes, I believe it exists, totally intangibly, and when I believe that, I can believe the story more truthfully, feel it more immersively than something that cakes the studio walls with green and blue nylon and paints on the scenery in post. Which, before I get ahead of myself, the Batman does still actually do. But it's kind of invisible, isn't it? I get rolled all the time for being anti-CGI or whatever, which is genuinely hilarious to me considering my favourite movie ever is entirely CG save Sandra Bullock's face. I'm not anti-CGI, I'm anti-using CGI where you don't fucking need to. If you have one actor, 2, 3, 100 in a street, on a beach, in an alley, or a valley, and all they're doing is standing there talking, why the fuck is that set not real? The Batman has real sets and real locations absolutely everywhere it feasibly can, and then it just fills in some gaps, adds a bit more rain, takes away a sign, paints in a boat or a chopper or an extra skyscraper or two. It uses the digital element to amend and perfect the real thing, the thing that was planned out and committed to and captured on the day, rather than relying on the digital element to manufacture an entire set that never existed long after the shoot has ended. And again, there's nothing wrong with a digital set, especially if, wait for it, it was done like this.
When you see what this looks like through the camera, wow, it's ridiculous.
I am obsessed with this technology, and it looks like Hollywood is getting that obsession too, which, thank God. I am praying it catches on because there's the potential here to circumvent just about every chroma key complication that's been dragging these things down for a decade. For those who still aren't in the know, the volume is a near 360-degree wall of LEDs on which a digitally crafted backdrop is rendered in real time and then motion tracked to match the camera angle, kinda like how virtual reality knows how to feed back to you where you are and what you're looking at. And essentially, what this does is provide a realistic panorama surrounding the action, one that gives off light that textures the faces and bodies of the actors in the way a wall of stagnant green and blue never could. You need to spend a few days shooting the sun rising over the skyline of a city that doesn't exist? With this, the sun is under your control. It can be golden hour, every hour, and Jesus Christ, look at that! If you didn't know, there's no way you'd think they weren't really out there on that rooftop. This is the future because this feels real. But, we're missing something in all this though, the key factor really. It's not the locations or the sets, how they're dressed, the costumes, the prosthetics, the effects. It's how we see all those things, how they're lit and how they're lensed. First things first here, does no one in Gotham pay their power bills? I don't know, maybe the Iceberg Lounge is choking the grid out entirely with that light show because hot damn, I love nightclub scenes. Whew. The set dressers might as well have skipped installing fixtures altogether though, because the first rule of the Batman's photography is this: don't turn on the lights. Yeah, this thing is dark, dangerously so, beautifully so. God-tier Aussie cinematographer Greig Fraser must have taken a leaf out of the animated series book here because he chose to paint on black. The photography is about adding light to the darkness, sculpting the gloom, because this is a story that takes place in the shadows.
But I am the shadows.
Streetlights, headlights, torchlight, and lamplight. These are the primary sources of the Batman's lambency, the halogen bulbs providing that gorgeous tungsten glow. It is Halloween after all, and so a burning orange fits the jack-o'-lantern vibe. But that luminance is muted though, tempered. When you listen to the camera and colouring teams talk about this movie, the desire was to keep it genuinely dark, to limit the highlights, so the process became about carefully calibrating the minimum amount of light our eyes could absorb without losing a single pixel of detail, which is so much more hardcore than flashbanging us from all sides and going,
"It's all visible. Next."
That is a deeply intricate, scientific process, and it's the exact level of thought and intent I want to see going into a movie like this. And the light is one thing, but I really think the visual X factor on this one is the lenses. Yeah, we on that real nerd shit now. The camera house they rented these bad boys from literally said, "These are the worst lenses we have," and Matt, being the total Chad he is, looked at them and was like,
We'll take the lot.
you take any shot at all, and you'll notice a plethora of crazy optical aberrations, like this cool foggy effect around the edge of the frame as the focus falls away from the hyper-sharp center. There's a lower level of contrast, extreme, bizarre flaring. You never see bokeh this fierce on a movie this expensive. The frame isn't just dirty, it's fucking filthy, and I love filth. Oh yeah, little piggy wanna roll around in that Gotham filth, oink oink. Dear God, man, you are not well. Everything about this look is so grimy and greasy, like the lenses are sweating, and that's perfect for a Gotham like this. Aside from maybe Zack Snyder, modern blockbuster movies tend to set their #1 visual priority to achieving total image clarity. Every shot is as pristine and in focus and pointed at the person joking as possible, and I think that is massively antithetical to what makes the visual medium of cinema so great. I'm not asking for dark, but give your movie some actual style, man. The look of the Batman isn't cutting edge 4K, ultra clean, razor sharp, 2022 glossy gloss clarity. It's vintage, and that rules. Just like Dune, Greig shot digital, transferred to film negative, then scanned it back to digital. That sounds like a monstrous amount of work, and it is, but look at that texture, look at that grain. Ooh, it's delicious. I think this is about as close as we'll ever really get again to the look and feel of a 70s classic. This is big time Gordon Willis. Shadows, silhouette, striking wide shots with half a dozen actors arranged around the 2:3:9:1 frame. And it is every frame. The Batman is finding a way to paint something exceptional for each individual image. There's no waiting for the good stuff, just plodding through dialogue and flat, floaty close-ups to get to the big spectacle. Nah, man, Matt and Greig are finding the good stuff in every single shot. Nothing is phoned in. They understand that even in the most functional moments, the moments where we just need a character to tell us the next thing that happens, there's a way to elevate that, to mine more from the image than just whacking on a lens and pointing it at a face. Which is funny because Matt and Greig place more importance on the complex subtleties of the face than anyone else in this genre has ever done. It's all about the eyes. This movie rocks a desktop wallpaper wide shot better than anyone, but it somehow does getting up close and personal better still. Eyes are the window to the soul for sure, but even more so, they're the window to this story and the very specific way it's being told. I mean, surely you notice what they were doing, right? All those slow push-ins on open space, all those point of view dollies, the way the camera moves when the characters do, and stops when they stop, the way it hangs on whose eyes we're seeing, and what those eyes see. You know what that is?
You're part of this too.
For me, what I get transported into sort of movies is the subjective experience. I like the idea of going through a film in the shoes of a character who you aren't.
This is it. These movies have had their own filmmaking rule set built around maximum creative energy or quickfire comedy or creating grand, reverent scale, but none has ever so fundamentally constructed itself out of a specific visual language as this one. The language of looking, seeing, searching. It's a style of storytelling you've no doubt seen somewhere before, but it's almost entirely died off in big scale productions like this, especially in America. It's a far more Eastern approach. Think movies like Come and See or the work of Tarkovsky or Wong Kar-wai. The Batman conditions us into this style of seeing from the very first shot. One continuous shot, a minute plus of quiet observation as we peer through a viewfinder, scanning for something below. We don't know who we are yet or what we're looking for, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that we are searching. The subject, the objective, isn't handed to us from the jump. It's up to us to find it, to discover where this story starts. If that leaves you unconvinced, just look at the scene that follows. First we watch someone, then we watch them watch themselves, then we watch someone else watch them watching themselves, and then Bruce is on that same shit 15 minutes later. I mean, come on! Even before the Batman reveals himself to us, the first glimpse of him we get is his eyes. Scanning, searching. We're being trained to investigate the spaces occupied by nothing, the spaces consumed by shadow, because something we need to know might be hiding there. And you need time to investigate. The edit needs a patient rhythm that gives us time to discover the things we need to, and Batman recording everything allows for that. He wants a stable image, and so his slow, methodical absorption of his surroundings doubles as a perfect justification for a more crawling cadence in the edit. That slower pacing really allows scenes to build because they don't have to start right where the action takes place or hurry off straight away when it ends. There's an infusion of these transitional interludes of sorts that exist to regulate rhythm and tone, like the arrival or departure from prominent locations, but each of these moments provides us with additional information about who these characters are or what this city is. Think of the shot of the bomb collar lights blinking in Gil's car pulling back to reveal the seawall just beyond the club, or how a stealthy motorcycle pursuit establishes factors about to come into play. Gotham Square Garden, the Renewal Project, or the citywide war on drops.
Watch where you're going, drop it!
Practically every clue the Batman discovers was simply a case of looking closer. That's all it is. Just tune in, pay attention. If this is supposed to be a detective story, Matt and Greig want us to be detectives. They want us in on the sleuthing. That's why this scene is so impossibly essential. Just look at how structured the rhythm is, how the camera moves so fluidly between the observer and the observation. Eyes follow movement around the space. A character moves, the eyeline moves, and that keeps the geography of the scene crystal clear, all while playing it up close. It's editing with a purpose. These scenes aren't shot from every possible angle and stitched together after the fact into something coherent. It's dealing in information, one distinct shot at a time. This leads to this, which leads to this, which leads to this. It's methodical, surgical even. A cut means new information is being served, and if there's no new information, there's no cut. Batman always stays ahead of the edit too, noticing things before Gordon and the forensics team catch up. And this was something we noticed before he did. I don't know about you, but that invocation of my own memory creates an insanely immersive effect. We know to follow his eyes. His eyes shift, our attention shifts too. It's tuning you in to the smallest reaction or lack thereof. And hey, we gotta talk about this because I am actually all for seeing a live-action version of the Bat where the eyes are white, when the time is right. Maybe a decade from now when I get to do a Batman movie. But this specific movie is about the eyes and what they see. And dude, that cannot work if you can't see exactly where those eyes are looking because they're pupilless balls of phosphorescent white. So there, I said it.
I told you I'd see you in hell.
The accumulative effect of this style of filmmaking becomes most apparent in this scene here. God, I love scenes where Batman interrogates a villain. Oof! This entire pivotal moment where Bruce believes that Edward Nashton knows the truth about the Batman is sold entirely in the eyes of Robert Pattinson. Downcast, dismayed, panicked, and confused. The secret is out in the hands of a madman. The Batman ends tonight.
He's the only one we didn't get.
Eyes up. Boom! He don't know shit. Bruce is off the hook, and it's a realization sold with nothing more than a look. It is crazy to me that a movie of this scale achieved a visual language so specific, so controlled, that it can play its biggest moments like that without Bruce saying a single word. And at this point you might say, so what? Aren't all movies about observing? We literally watch them. But nah, man, this is a very specialized type of filmmaking. It's a carefully constructed set of storytelling mechanics. The movie isn't designed so that you can kick back and chill, maybe scroll your phone a bit as it pops off some fun jokes with stimulating colors, maybe offers you a good time for 2 hours. This isn't that movie. Its currency isn't passive entertainment. It wants your attention. It wants you involved. It wants you actively engaged, because when you're engaged, you're right there with it. You're in it. You are the detective. You are the drifter. You are... For decades now, across every screen adaptation, save this one, the strange, somber, broken psychology of Batman has been the biggest storytelling draw of the character, but Matt Reeves is the first filmmaker to tackle actually putting us inside his head, literally seeing Gotham through his eyes. Here, Matt allows us to learn his journaled thoughts, presented over shots of how he perceives his city, even going so far as letting us in on part of his emo playlist. I'd be willing to put money on Welcome to the Black Parade being next in queue.
Maybe it's beyond saving, but I have to try. Push myself.
Honey, you're delusional. Which Matt has an unending amount of empathy for. As I said, he leans harder into the world's saddest detective persona than any of his forefathers, but despite Bruce's unwavering determination at the start of the story, his twisted tango with Edward Nashton unravels his convictions and allows the delusional nature of his crusade to come to the surface, where he finally has to face it.
All these years, I've spent fighting for him.
I love that Bruce's concept of the Batman is constructed upon such flawed moral foundations that all it takes to initiate a descent into crushing self-doubt, seemingly for the first time in this entire 2-year project, is the insinuation that Thomas Wayne, his long-dead father, wasn't all good all the time. A claim which later turns out to be largely untrue, but it's enough to set the stage for Bruce to enter a full-blown re-evaluation of the entire Batman mission. Up until that point, I don't think Bruce ever saw the Batman as a hero. The Batman is simply a vessel, a conduit for channeling the rage and hurt and guilt that boils away under his repressed, reclusive surface. Maybe he really does believe he's achieving something, creating a new Wayne legacy, a legend, but at no point do I think he considered himself some beacon of the people, for the people. An icon? Yes, but never a hero, a champion of the good in Gotham. This isn't some stoic, all-seeing figure soaring high over the city he's sworn to protect and swooping down on crime as it happens. It's just some sad, weird drifter roaming the streets in the hope he finds trouble, or trouble finds him. It's less omniscient and omnipotent and more depraved, desperate, like a junkie out trying to get his fix. And when he does find that trouble, he's just vengeance. Vengeance is where the Batman begins and ends.
You know who I am?
Yeah,
The suit is a symbol of fear, an armored costume designed to be terrifying to those that behold it as he emerges from the shadows. That Giacchino theme is so perfect because you can imagine it following him out there in real life. Dun, 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 dun. He's that lone gunslinger rolling into town, sending the townsfolk scattering every which way, cowering in dread as to what punishment he might inflict upon them. Good guy, bad guy, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that they know what he can do. But without the suit, who is Bruce Wayne?
You know who I am?
At every chance he can, Matt finds a way to put the real Bruce Wayne in the same situations Batman has already been in to watch him flounder without the cowl. He's nervous, unsure, unable to make eye contact. Out in the world, he hasn't developed that performative playboy persona to fall back on yet. Take away the mask and you're really just a scared kid lashing out at the world like a wounded animal in a cage of your own making. And Bruce may never get past that. He might never overcome the rage and hurt and guilt he's feeling. Maybe the scars run too deep. But he has to try, because if he doesn't, what separates him from the true monsters lurking out there in the dark?
I have to become more. People need hope.
Who is this Batman?
Please don't hurt me.
I know it's early days here, but I think you really gotta ask yourself what you've become when even the people who have no need to fear the Batman fear the Batman. His arrival doesn't exactly inspire hope.
What the hell is he doing?
In this first sequence, it feels like saving a civilian is secondary to pulverizing criminals. It's simply vengeance and then he's gone, with no follow-up on their well-being because protection is simply a means to a violent end, not the other way round. Is that really who we want Batman to be? Is that who Bruce wants Batman to be? Right now, he's not doing it for the city. Not really. He's doing it for himself, and so the better question might be, who is this Batman for?
I'm vengeance.
Sorry, what? Like, everyone knows the Batman is this violent, relentless force out there that does what they want to anyone, justified or not, with zero oversight or accountability, and that's just the way it is. In a Gotham this broken, what's one more freak in the night? So yeah, of course the most despondent lost souls in the city are gonna see the guy in the spooky Halloween costume and go, huh, maybe I should get in on that. I mean, part of me knows that a Riddler of some kind would have been born of these conditions sooner or later no matter what, but the reality is that this Riddler happened directly because of the Batman and the message his existence in its vengeful, malevolent form puts out into the world. After all this time, all the Batman has inspired, all he's brought to the streets of Gotham is the likes of Edward Nashton and his crazed zealots. And that can't be it. That can't be all the Batman is. And so, when the next opportunity arises to save someone, to save anyone, to put his life on the line to protect the people of his city, he takes it without a second thought. This is rebirth, a new beginning. The Dark Knight rises from the flood as Gotham's protector, a guardian in the night, a light in the darkness to guide those who need it. And that was there from the start, it's always been there. Bruce saw the Riddler at the funeral, he had him, but he chose to save the mayor's son over going after the killer. Now, that kid is the first to take the Batman's hand as he leads the survivors through the water. A kid that feels safe knowing that this strange dude with pointed ears in a hulking suit of all black armor is truly there to protect him, no matter what. And if a scared kid who just lost a father can feel safe in the hands of the Batman, so too can the rest of the city. He exists for them now, and they don't need to be afraid. The purpose of the Batman was never about having a city live in fear of doing what's wrong, but about setting the example by doing what's right. He just got lost along the way to finding that. When you're that far down the rabbit hole, a realization like that is one you need to come to on your own. When you're in that deep, no one can tell you to rethink your approach. Nah, something has got to give inside. Be the change you wish to see in the world, I guess. Maybe the Batman isn't a warning after all. It's probably wrong of me to place the future of blockbuster cinema upon the shoulders of one incredible movie in an act of sheer frustration. No one film, no matter how much it does right, is going to single-handedly change the tide of this fight. Making the Batman a conduit for channeling the rage I've been feeling over the gradual decline of the modern blockbuster won't change the past, it won't change the future. Vengeance won't do a fucking thing. All it seems to serve here is feeding its own flame. And that's a hard flame to extinguish. It's ignited by passion after all, but something's gotta give. Be the change you wish to see in the world. This blockbuster crusade of mine, it can't be about tearing down the films that do it all wrong, no matter the hubris and malpractice that might have befallen them. It has to be about uplifting the example set by those that do it right. The truth of the matter is that nothing ever grows from the words "fuck you." Blind anger in a vacuum offers no direction. It doesn't invite positive change. Change happens in this industry when vision paves a new way forward. Vision is the key. It's always been the key. And I believe a change is coming. The tide will turn. In many ways, it's already begun. Look at the growing hunger for practical production and how the volume is filling the void that green screen used to govern. Look at how fans are starting to call the studio's bluff. Look at the wave of passion, the river of reassessment happening to blockbusters of the past, not because of some nostalgic desperation to rehabilitate the misses of a bygone era, but because we're collectively realizing that there has been a decline in proper production, in process, in conviction, in vision. The Batman is proof to me that all these things still can be all that they could be, all that they should be, if we could only stand behind the vision that makes something of its kind a reality. To play on an immortalized proverb from a great hope of the past, it's a film we don't deserve, but it's the one we need right now. Yeah, it feels like hope again, and that is why I love Yo, 2 videos in 1 year. What is this, a channel that's back on its feet? Thank you to everyone who has turned up for this absolute monster of a video. I hope you dug it. Let me know about it. If you're new here, there's 2 things I need you to do for me. 1, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because there's an avalanche of new material coming your way. And 2, go back and check out the Why I Love backlog. If you love this, you'll love all that too. No more on-camera outros because I want my superstar Patreon supporters to have their names front and center. Y'all are the best. If you want to see your name here too, jump on that Patreon down in the description to make it happen. We're back up and running now, so it won't be long until I see all of you again. Until then, love always and empathy first.